Good Thursday morning. It is October 23rd. You found us here on the Weather Desk. Thank you for finding us on 13 News Now Plus, and some of you watching right now live on YouTube. We're happy you're here and checking it out. Here's what we do on the Weather Desk. Every weekday morning around 9 a.m. we have our show that is focused on the top weather headlines, not only for Hampton Roads in the mid-Atlantic region, but all across the country. We really often look around the world. There's sometimes climate stories or space-related stories, all things weather and environment. We cover them, and we've got a big show lined up today. The topics we're going to discuss, we will talk about an elevated risk for outdoor burning and fire danger here in the mid-Atlantic. We're tracking Melissa in the Caribbean, and I'll show you the latest, some changes to the watches and warnings down in the Caribbean. Jamaica, a little status change there. We'll get into that, and I really am concerned for Jamaica as we look ahead late in the weekend and into early next week. I'll have that full forecast here in moments. In addition to those stories, we're also going to bring you up to date on a couple of hikers that were struck by lightning. This occurred yesterday morning, local time there, a little bit, right around 11 o'clock, I think just before 11 o'clock. They're at the highest peak in Arizona, Humphreys Peak. Highest point in Arizona. They were struck by lightning. They did survive. We'll show you how they're doing this morning and what's going on with that. Then there was a climate disaster database that, through some of the different cutbacks with the government, that had been discontinued. Well, a nonprofit organization has revived that, and now that climate disaster database, which used to be handled by NOAA, is being run again. We'll tell you how that's doing and what's going on with that. We have fall driving hazards. We're into fall now, and we'll talk about that. And we've got one forecast group's early winter outlook. We'll share what they're thinking coming up across the country this winter. Let's start off, though, with a look at this elevated fire danger. We've had a weather impact alert for Hampton Roads, Northeast North Carolina, Southeast Virginia. Basically, from 11 o'clock this morning to 7 o'clock, we're looking at potential gusty winds combined with low humidity. That raises the fire threat, so you are asked to avoid outdoor burning. It's just one of those situations where the weather's beautiful. You look outside, you think, oh, this is awesome. And honestly, this morning, the winds went really light, but they are forecast to pick up. As a matter of fact, before we move into that forecast with the Futurecast, I'll show you a few gusts have been closer to 20 down along the Outer Banks, but those winds are set to pick up later this morning and into the afternoon. We're looking at gusts 20 to 25 miles per hour, pretty gusty into the early evening as well. Some areas, again, even inland, 20 to 25. So we just want folks to use extra caution. Now, you take a look at the drier air that is moving in across the region this morning near the coast. You know, you get the temperature down around the dew point and you get the air almost saturated. But inland areas very dry, and as we go through the afternoon heating, the dry conditions out to the west, it's all going to be in place across our region. We're looking at relative humidities this afternoon, 28, 29%, something like that, close to 30%. So it is going to be dry. And again, as we look at the drought monitor here, this is the updated drought monitor. Let's go ahead and take a look at this full, because I'm going to actually manipulate this a little bit and zoom around a bit more, not just to show you what's happening here across Hampton Roads, but this brand new drought monitor just dropped. So here it is, this updated situation. You can see back across parts of the West Virginia area, extreme drought east of Charleston and back up across northern parts of West Virginia there. We do have it. So we're looking at that. I'm going to pull back out and show you the national picture here as we go along as well. So let me grab this, and there we go. Well, there it is. Okay, sorry about that. Took a minute to grab it. There's our national picture. So here's what I wanted to show you again as we take a look. Very dry conditions, not the exceptional drought in parts of the Southwest, but still some extreme drought. Notice how parts of Arizona doing better, still dry, but I mean, this area was really feeling it earlier. Now, across parts of Texas, there is still extreme drought, but we're not seeing as much as we were dealing with, and parts of the Southeast still very dry as well. Up across northern parts of Idaho, this is where we get into some exceptional drought. Still very dry across Washington State and western Montana. Upper central U.S., the Midwest, and the Great Plains looking a little bit better. Still very dry with some extreme drought across southern Missouri, parts of Alabama also feeling it. As we look to the Northeast, this has been an area that has been extremely dry, and that's the case. Extreme drought continues Vermont, New Hampshire, and portions of Maine. As for Hampton Roads, this area, again, we have severe drought, and it's moderate drought across much of the Piedmont. Once you come to Richmond, it's dry. And here's the change for Hampton Roads. Last week, we had just kind of normal or okay conditions down to about the state line. Now this drier line is pushing up, not in drought for Hampton Roads, the metro area, but it is getting a little bit drier, and we're seeing drier conditions prevail across the Middle Peninsula and the Northern Neck as well. Down into northeast North Carolina, this area now under moderate to even some severe drought. So Pasquotank, Perquimans, Chowan counties now in severe drought. This area could use some more rain. So this is what we're going to continue to monitor, and we will keep you updated. That is the latest on what's happening with the drought monitor. All right, we're going to turn our attention to the tropics here. And again, what we're going to do is take a look at this. This is Melissa. This is the only thing going right now in the Atlantic Basin that is of great concern. We will continue to watch. This is a tropical storm, and I want to take this full. I'll color enhance this, and as we take the maps, again, the satellite and it's not a radar, obviously, but we can color enhance it and zoom in and show you that deep convection that is going on right now across the Caribbean. A lot of storminess here, and it's already been a big rainmaker over portions of the Dominican Republic and Hispaniola. Here's Haiti, and here's the Dominican Republic. Areas here in the Dominican have really been hit hard. So we're looking at this as Melissa continues to move very slowly. There's going to be more concern for the heavy rain down there. This slow-moving system has already brought heavy rain, as I mentioned, to the DR. This is a look at the conditions in Santo Domingo. Melissa is expected to strengthen here. You're going to see it with the official forecast. By Friday, it should be a hurricane. Over the weekend, it is going to come close, most likely, to Jamaica into early next week as potentially a major hurricane. So as I showed you, just some of the outermost bands kind of moving up towards Santo Domingo. You see the flooding there that it created in the DR. Let's come back to the 8 a.m. advisory on Melissa. Movement now northwest at 5 miles per hour. That's a little bit of an uptick in forward speed. Previously, it was west-northwest at only 3 miles per hour. So a little bit more of a northerly component, and 5 miles per hour, that forward speed. It is currently located about 215 miles to the southeast of Kingston, Jamaica, and about 275 miles to the southwest of Port-au-Prince, Haiti. So we're looking, these two areas really concerned with this. And as we get into the forecast on this, I'm going to show you the European and the American models, the GFS, which is the global model the U.S. has, the global forecast system. They kind of go in different directions with this thing. So we'll get into all of that. First of all, the official forecast from the Hurricane Center, you see how it moves it back to the north and then moves it just south of Jamaica as a major hurricane. Again, it strengthens it as we get into Friday, Saturday, Sunday. It starts to strengthen a bit more. And in this area, it's going to produce rain across Haiti, heavy rain across parts of Jamaica. But if it follows this Hurricane Center forecast, and it does track west as a major hurricane, we're not talking about a system rolling over an island and moving past it and then improvements coming. In this case, you're talking about Sunday morning into Monday morning, into Tuesday morning. It may be late Tuesday or Wednesday before it would pass. And honestly, as I look at the European model, for instance, if it does follow this kind of a track, there's some suggestion that it may kind of stall and then move back over it. So I'm very, very concerned about damaging winds, a lot of coastal flooding, and then the rainfall flooding, the freshwater flooding that could come even over the higher elevations there in Jamaica. There's going to be potentially a very, very bad hit to this area. It's really something that we are extremely concerned with as we go late in the weekend and into early next week. Is it a certainty? Well, No, it's not a certainty yet because you look at the models, some of them do carry it more often this direction, kind of bring it up and then out. The Euro tends to bring it more this way. That's the spaghetti plot. So there's still a lot of question as to where it goes beyond this 4 to 5 day time period. And I want to show you the two models here, again, the Euro and the GFS. So the Euro's in red, the GFS in yellow, and look at how the two solutions go in different directions. Here's the Euro. This is the one that the Hurricane Center is following a little more closely. All right, you can see how it kind of takes it here through next Monday. And the GFS actually tracks the center of that low over Hispaniola. It then accelerates it off to the northeast, while the Euro really ramps this thing up into a major hurricane and brings it back over towards like Montego Bay and back up towards Cuba and this area in here, the eastern part of Cuba, across the Turks and Caicos. So two different solutions with the American model. The GFS, it has it long gone. The Euro has this thing moving in this direction through next week. We'll have to watch it. This, by the way, is just another area of low pressure, not a tropical system, but a low that's coming off the coast, and that's why it kind of picks this thing up and accelerates it off to the northeast. Kind of interesting. Bottom line is we're not sure exactly how this is going to play out, but I can tell you Jamaica switched. They did have a tropical storm watch. They're now going tropical storm warning, and that's not for the worst of the storm. That's just what they believe is going to happen within the next 48 hours. We're going to see tropical storm force conditions with eventually, I believe, hurricane warnings will go up for Jamaica. You can see a hurricane watch continues for Haiti. So we're going to continue to watch all of this, but this is an update just with the more recent information coming out. Now a tropical storm warning for Jamaica. And you look at some of the rainfall projections through Saturday afternoon, 9 inches potentially for coastal sections of Haiti, maybe 6 there in the DR, and then the heavier rain will pick up as we get into the early part of next week. Kingston, 4 inches, Montego Bay, 2 inches. You're going, well, that's not too bad, but they're just getting started on this projection. You can see by the middle of next week, 13 inches in Kingston, maybe up to 18 for parts of Haiti. I mean, tremendous amounts of rain. And then eventually eastern Cuba kind of picks up on that. Montego Bay, 1.5 feet of rain, maybe 2 feet of rain. So you can imagine the flooding is going to be extensive with that kind of rainfall. We'll keep you updated on all of that. It's a lot to watch. So that's what's happening here in the Atlantic Basin. The Gulf is quiet. East Coast looks good. Even across the rest of the MDR, the main development region, we're in good shape. Over in the Eastern Pacific, we've got one area with a 70% chance of development. It is expected to move west, so not really a threat to land. We're in pretty good shape. Of course, the hurricane season runs through the end of November. We're well past the peak, and right now we're coming into this last week of October. So we're definitely on the downside, and we are going to see quieter conditions eventually. But right now, Melissa is a huge, huge concern. Now, for the latest on the tropics, tune in to Hurricane Hub Live. You can watch it right here on 13 News Now. Plus, every night at 8 p.m., our team of meteorologists will take an even closer look at what's happening in both the Atlantic and in the Pacific. Some really good stuff there. All right, now I want to take you to Arizona. Take a look at this, and I'm going to specifically zoom in just around the Flagstaff area because we want to talk about 2 men that are now in the hospital. They were struck by lightning. This happened while the 2 men were hiking near Humphreys, or hiking on Humphreys Peak, which is the highest point in the state. Now, the severe weather made it tough for first responders to reach them, but after several hours, crews were able to bring them both down off the mountain. The National Weather Service says Humphreys Peak is extremely dangerous during storms because there are no protective trees at the top. Once you get above the tree line, you are the most vulnerable thing, and that was the problem.
It's up at 12,600 feet, and the tree line is probably right at about 11,500 to 11,800. And if you're in a cover of trees, lightning usually likes to go for the highest object, not always, but usually. And when you're up on Humphreys, you are the highest object. So the lightning, unfortunately, is going to potentially aim for you.
Both men are expected to survive. The lightning also ignited several fires around the state. And I was reading a local article there from Flagstaff. They said that the lightning strike took the cell phone that one of the men was carrying and threw it 35 feet or something like that. So you can imagine the blast and then that. But the other hiker that was with the man was able to contact help, and they eventually got that. So really a pretty incredible state. All right, we want to talk what's going on nationally here, and the Weather and Climate Disaster Database, which was retired earlier by the Trump administration in May, has been given new life by a nonprofit. The database tracks extreme weather disasters that cause $1 billion or more in damage. The National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration, or NOAA, used to host the database, but its administrator took early retirement with this year as part of the administration's push to shrink the federal government. The climate research nonprofit Climate Central has since hired that administrator to rebuild and host the database there. And it's the first update on the new set. In this first update, the database shows that there was $101 billion in losses in the first 6 months of 2025. It's been the most expensive first 6 months of any year since 1980. So again, that database back up and running, and Climate Central is now funding that. So we'll continue to keep you updated there. All right, we're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, I've got to look at the fall foliage, some updates on how the colors are coming in, and we've got an early prediction, and we'll let you know about some forecasters that have given their winter outlook. I know it's early, but we'll talk about what they believe is going to happen. Stay tuned. Welcome back to the Weather Desk. It's late October, which means we are about to hit the peak of leap peeping season here in Virginia. The videos you're seeing were taken in Madison County and Augusta County, Amherst, and up in Waynesboro. You can see those trees have quite a bit of color, but what about the rest of the state? We're going to talk about that. It's going to be an amazing weekend to get out across Hampton Roads and then to drive out to the mountains. Beautiful weather to check out the fall foliage. Let's show you the maps. Nationally, we're already past peak in some of the highest elevations in the Rockies and northern tier of the U.S. We are peaking right now from New England down through Pennsylvania and portions of western Virginia and into West Virginia. color just starting to come in down across the southern U.S. and very little color down along the Gulf Coast or the southeast U.S. For the Blue Ridge, here you go. The colors are high color to almost peaking. We do have some areas out in West Virginia, the highest elevations that have peaked already, but most of the area really coming into it now from Harrisonburg up through Winchester, down through Lexington, the I-81 corridor, color coming in beautifully around Charlottesville and up to D.C. It's kind of low color, but it is coming in now. That color, that vibrant color, exists all the way down into western North Carolina. Again, the Piedmonts, Hickory, Elkin, all the way up through, say, Martinsville and Roanoke, over towards Richmond. Moderate color now. We have low color here across Hampton Roads, but it is coming in, and it is fun to see that. Now, we have the changing leaves, and they are beautiful, but they can also cause issues for drivers on the roads. Meteorologist Evan Stewart explains.
As the air cools and leaves begin to fall, autumn doesn't just bring colorful scenery, but new dangers for drivers. One of the biggest concerns comes from fallen leaves. While they may look harmless, wet leaves can be as slippery as ice, creating a serious risk for cars traveling at high speeds or attempting sudden stops. And leaves can also cover important road markings, potholes, or other obstacles. Another seasonal concern is the low angle of the sun. During fall, sunrise and sunset often coincide with peak commuting hours. This can lead to increased glare, making it harder to see traffic lights, pedestrians, or brake lights ahead. And finally, white-tailed deer mating season peaks in November in Virginia and North Carolina. During this time, deer are more active, especially around dawn and dusk, leading to additional hazards. So what should you do? Slow down on leaf-covered roads and increase the following distance. Sunglasses can be worn to help cut down on sun glare, and be extra cautious at dawn and dusk and watch for deer around deer crossing signs.
Evan, great advice there on all of those points. Now, of course, right after fall comes winter, and already some forecasters making predictions as to how harsh the winter is going to be across parts of the country. Our colleagues over at AccuWeather say this season you can look for maybe some intense winter storms expected back across the Midwest, the Ohio Valley, and the Northeast U.S. Some cities, including Boston and Philly, are forecast to see more snow than usual, and the opposite for the Southeast and Gulf Coast, where temperatures could hit record-level highs with little rain to provide relief. Meanwhile, out on the West Coast, drought conditions are expected to worsen and wildfire threats will remain high. The winter season officially starts on December 21st, but meteorological winter begins December 1st. So we'll be looking at that. We'll be doing some of our own winter outlooks as well, but thought we'd pass along what AccuWeather's saying. They do a great job over there. All right, as we take a look across the nation, you could see some wet weather kind of scattered across southern parts of Utah. We've got some wet weather back across New Mexico as well. As we take a look for much of the country, the central U.S. through the southeast, it is gorgeous. Some unsettled weather with an area of low pressure spinning up into Canada. That rain will stay to our north, impacting the eastern Great Lakes. As we get into the future cast, again, some rain. It's going to be unsettled back across portions of Colorado, snow for the higher elevations, and an eruption of heavier downpours and some stronger storms across parts of Kansas and Oklahoma. This will run through early Friday. You can see the wet weather continuing for the northeast U.S. This line of strong to severe storms potentially across parts of East Texas through late Friday night and early Saturday, pushing eastward and then kind of falling apart as it runs into some of this drier air entrenched along the East Coast. We're going to see mostly sunny skies through the weekend, but again, down along the Gulf Coast, some rough weather there and heavier rain back across portions of Mississippi. For the northwest U.S., late in the weekend, you can see a little bit of snow for the higher elevations. You get up into the Rockies. Beautiful to start seeing snow there, and you know the resorts loving that as well. The ski resorts will take any snow they can get early season, start working on some of that at the highest elevations. Some rain coming in to the northwest U.S. Here's what's going to happen here locally. We have a lot of sunshine for Hampton Roads. Temperatures are going to top out today in the upper 60s or mid to upper 60s. Overnight tonight, Clear skies, beautiful, few clouds down to the south, but mainly clear across Hampton Roads. And it looks like it's going to be another sunny day tomorrow. Temperatures cooler for your Friday, more like low to mid 60s. Into Saturday, a little bit more of a northerly component with the winds. That's going to keep our temperatures down, low 60s on Saturday. That's it. Mostly sunny, looking good for Saturday, and Sunday should be mostly sunny as well. Excited about the weekend. Right now, as we take a live look at the Thompson Creek Window Company sky view, it is clear as a bell. Looking good for Hampton Roads. Grass pollen, weed pollen, both low. As we take a look at the marine forecast today, not too bad out there, a little breezy. You could see a few gusts, maybe up around 20 knots or so for the bay and the ocean, but in general looks pretty good. High tide at Sewell's Point just before 11 o'clock. So highs today, again, in the upper 60s, plenty of sunshine. Enjoy that across the region. Remember, with the dry ground and again, the gusty winds and low humidity, we do have an elevated fire risk. That's why we have our weather impact alert. Just want to keep folks mindful of that. Temperatures on the peninsula, mid to upper 60s, 66 around Matthews and Gloucester, low to mid 60s on the eastern shore. Outer Banks, mid 60s. We have temperatures closer to 70 for most of northeast North Carolina. Tonight, clear sky, colder inland, 45 the low, 64, plenty of sunshine, lighter winds tomorrow. The weekend's looking pretty good, mostly sunny, as I mentioned, staying cool into next week. Shower chances coming Tuesday and Wednesday. How about a quick peek at the Halloween forecast? Looking pretty good for Hampton Roads. Temperatures into the 50s for the trick-or-treaters. Partly cloudy skies. Thanks so much for joining us in today's edition of the Weather Desk. We'll see you next time right here